Today we sit down with John Walker, Head of Data Science and Engineering over at MS and AD Group. We discuss the current landscape of data science.
I think people will start to embrace the power of information more.
In our conversation, we explore the pressures and privileges of leadership.
You're trying to make the best decision for tomorrow and next week and the next year, as opposed to, 10 years from now.
We also delve into John's approach of fostering a creative culture within his team.
You can build a nice culture by people, I think, recognising that they're more than just these automatons.
This one is a really great listen. John, let's talk data. So, the Harvard Business Review deemed data science as the hot job of the 21st century. Were you aware of that?
No, I wasn't aware of
that.
that.
No, that was back in 2012.
What was second? Do we know what was second?
I don't know, I'm so sorry. But 11 years on, still pretty hot. So
I would agree.
So why is that, do you think?
Because data is the largest growing commodity in the world. Mm-hmm. We're producing more and more of it every second. We're getting used to the fact that there's a transactional loop of data, i.e. it creates more information.
Yeah.
And we're only just sort of touching the edges of what you can do with it.
Absolutely.
And so it's a growing thing. And that's why, it's not mature at all. We're nowhere near maturity. It's a teenager at best. In fact, no, it's just started
Toddler.
Secondary school. Yeah,
Okay.
at best. And that's why it's hot.
Amazing. So you picked quite a good career path, probably not knowing it was going to be.
I started as an accountant, so I don't think it kind of became a career path as I grew up.
Amazing.
As I progressed through my career, it was like, you could also do this. And being a huge geek and liking computers, I was like, actually, I'd love to do that. Forget the accountancy, which is kind of boring.
Yes.
Let's do this.
Yeah, amazing. So, I'm not sure accountancy was deemed the sexiest job at the 21st
I don't think that would be in the Harvard list.
No.
Top 10, maybe bottom 10.
Absolutely not. But I'm sorry, I don't know the full list. I just know number one.
Okay.
So before we really delve in, could you just go through really at the start, how it all began for you to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. So where did it begin for me? I was working for a broker called Marsh as an accountant. Mm-hmm. And one day all of our systems basically exploded. I don't think they technically exploded. Yeah. I think they just stopped working. And I remember our manager sort of panicking and thinking, well, what the hell are we going to do? We've got to do our accounts. You've always got to do accounts in finances. There's never ending. And basically said, can anyone fix this? And I decided to have a go and found that I could. And that sort of started me on the path of thinking, well, I don't really want to be an accountant. I actually like playing around with this stuff. I'd always liked playing around with computers. And I'm lucky enough, as I say, that the path of that career kind of came into existence. Like I started off just doing analytics, and then it became programming, and then it became data engineering, and then data science. And so it was pure fluke.
Okay.
Whereas the people now that I manage are making a very educated decision to go into that career path, and good for them. Mm-hmm. I'm one of the lucky ones who just sort of came across a career as it was created. But that was the start, was just Marsh's systems breaking.
So it was a very organic.
Very organic, yeah.
In terms of your path to leadership then, did you always know you wanted to be a leader?
No, I hate being a leader. It's awful.
Do you really?
It's awful.
Can't be true.
There's no fun in being a leader. I mean, this as the head of your own recruitment company. There's no fun in being a leader. I prefer the hands-on work. Why do I do it? I feel a sense of responsibility to the people who are younger than me to say, this is exciting, be excited about it. And I got too old and realised that there were lots of people much better than me coming through. I like aspects of being a leader. I like the bit where you see that, when your team achieves something and they feel really proud of themselves. That's like a really lovely moment.
Yeah.
Which I never thought it would be, but I can understand it is a really lovely moment. And then the less good moments are the bits where they, do something naughty and you have to tell them off. But the bit where they do something wonderful is great. And really, really rewarding.
Yeah, I agree.
I enjoy that.
It can be a pressure and a privilege, I think, leadership for sure. Yeah. And we've spoken about this briefly. The level of management you're at, we have to absorb a lot because you have people you report into who have certain expectations.
Yeah.
And then I imagine you don't necessarily share all that with your team.
No.
So you're kind of like a sponge to sometimes not great stuff. So how do you deal with that, I suppose, those challenges?
I don't think there's a right way of dealing with that. Let me just be honest with you. I think everyone's going to find their own method.
Yeah, sure.
How do I deal with it? I go to the gym.
Yeah, massive. It's important.
One thing that I learned especially during COVID, is that work-life balance is super, super important. And before COVID, I think like lots of people, I would get up really early in the morning and be at work before the sun had risen, and I'd come home really late at night, and my wife and I would like have a Marks and Sparks takeaway meal every night, and like probably a bit rubbish when I reflect on it.
Yeah.
So having balance I think is important to those decisions. I think also the longer you do it, the more you realise, like the first time you make a decision, especially a bad one, like maybe one that's going to negatively impact someone, you feel a great sense of like pain and anguish. It's like, oh my God, I've ruined this person's life. And then you realise that time is this kind of like wonderful healer, and they will get a new job and they will be okay. And so you realise that a lot of your decisions are transient. You're trying to make the best decision for tomorrow and next week and the next year, as opposed to, I don't know, 10 years from now, is anyone going to know that I was managing the people I'm managing today? Probably not. Apart from hopefully some of those people I'm managing who think, oh, he was a good manager.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so balance, think about it, be reflective of the import of it.
Yeah, and when you're burnt out, you're not going to make the best decisions anyway, ultimately, are you?
No, so take holidays is what you're saying. 100% take holidays. Go to nice places and spend your time reflecting on things other than work. And don't take your phone with you. Yeah.
Are you able to switch off, or is your mind constantly ticking and thinking about all these wonderful capabilities that data science has?
I am able to switch off from work when I go for so I always take a long holiday, like 3 weeks or so at least. And that during that time I can. But I don't switch off from the things that we're doing, if that makes sense. I just switch off from work. So I think about stuff that I want to be able to do all the time. Because I'm fascinated by the possibilities.
Yeah.
And I'm always amazed by the fact that literally almost every week now you'll read something like, well, that's really cool. Where could I use that? And that's kind of why I do the job. So I never really turn off from that.
No.
But I don't ever want to.
No.
I don't think I particularly want to retire. What would I do with myself? I don't want to play golf. It's a bit wet in this country for golf. So I don't think I ever want to stop that. That's what I enjoy. I enjoy reading about this and learning about this and being involved in this. So I think I'll keep that forever. Yeah,
and it touches every industry. And, you know, I mean, imagine you'll go to the doctors and think, imagine if you could automate that process.
Especially with the NHS, endlessly. But you also meet, the nice thing about the job is I meet lots of other people like yourself, and you're all doing different things.
Yeah.
And that breadth of experience is fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm not just tied to one kind of type of interaction. Whereas when I was an accountant, you just hang out with other accountants and talk about accountancy stuff. Whereas now where I am in my life, I talk to people about everything, like podcasts and stuff. And that is fascinating.
Yeah.
And I like that experience.
Yeah.
So I never really turn off from it now.
No. And so MS Amlin, where you work now.
Yep.
And obviously you're there, so hopefully the answer is yes. Would you say you're quite far ahead in terms of understanding what's possible for the business?
I think that we are doing a wonderful job at showing people what is possible.
Yeah.
I think that I work for MS Amlin. I actually work for MS and AD, which is the parent group.
Okay, yeah.
It's the 8th largest carrier of insurance in the world, Turning that is not a tanker. It's 50 tankers all lined up at once with different captains who dislike each other and can't agree. So turning that is complicated.
Sure.
I think that we're making good progress on that journey. I think that all companies should be feeling a pressure to turn their oil tankers, because I think 5-10 years from now, industries will be really, really different. And I think that we're making people realise that. Are we ideally where I would want to be? Well, no.
No.
But don't work for the huge oil tanker if that's what you want to be.
Yeah.
We'll get there. And I'm confident we'll get there. And I'm having lots of really great conversations internally about where we do need to be. It's also because it's such a nascent specialism. It's like all things, everyone's really fearful of it and doesn't really understand it. And so that does create a reticence, and getting over that hurdle I think is hard.
Yeah.
I'm also a bit of an idealist. I kind of really believe in high code. I believe in doing it all yourself. I don't really like using tools that are going to kind of shortcut it. That probably puts me at the spectrum of where the management I'm dealing with are a bit like, well, couldn't you just do this a little bit cheaper or a little bit easier? And I make my journey harder.
Yeah.
But I think I'm on the right path, and I think we'll get there.
Sounds like it. And it's great that you've already got the support to a degree and buy-in from the business, given such a large-scale company, because there's those out there that are only just starting, in the infancy of data strategy, never mind understanding the power of data science.
Absolutely, and I think there are actually companies out there, just in my opinion, who are making the wrong choices in this thing, okay? They're in the incremental step process, which is where they're thinking, how do we just go one step? You know, I think it's PwC have got this thing called STEEP, which is societal, technological, environmental, economic, and political. I think are all the things, right, that are impacting industries today. And they talk about the fact that incremental is no longer keeping pace with that change. You're always actually falling behind.
Right.
And I genuinely think that a lot of companies are always falling behind. They feel like they're making progress, and they are. Okay, they are making progress. But the delta of where they were to where they need to be is ever expanding.
Right, yeah.
And that, I think, is a big, big mistake.
Yeah.
And I do genuinely believe that, 10 years' time or so, industries will be completely different. I think some of those companies making those incremental changes will suffer.
Yeah.
I have some fairly interesting meetings from time to time, and 3 years from now, I think there will be certain players in all markets who are almost obsoleting themselves by not staying at that top of that wave enough.
Right. Okay.
So I think you've got to be aggressive with this.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a Microsoft thing now. So Satya Nadella became CEO of Microsoft, and let's be honest, at the time everyone hated Microsoft and still kind of do. And the first thing he did was say, look, we're going to concentrate on the cloud. It's all about cloud. It's all about cloud. It's all about cloud. They invested in OpenAI. ChatGPT comes out. They're doing all these good things. He got right in front of the wave. He took a huge leap, changed their way of approaching businesses, said we're going to be a little bit more open. We're going to be a bit more kind of, transparent to people. And he accelerated to the top of that wave. And that's why they're now doing much, much, much better than they were.
Yeah.
If he carried on like Balmer was doing, I wonder where Microsoft would be today.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of leaders out there for big companies that need to embrace the fear and the things that they don't quite understand and say, no, we just need to get to the wave, because that's where the next big companies are going to be, and that's where industry is going.
Yeah. So too slow and too cautious.
Far too slow.
Embrace the fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how badly can it go?
Yeah.
Well, pretty badly, but hopefully not as badly as... I think, so some of the people who are now managing companies come from an era where a company could disappear overnight by making the wrong decision.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's true anymore. I think you can make missteps. I think you can put funding into things, and the cost loss is not that big compared to the payoff.
Yeah.
And I think more companies should embrace an R&D profile of, well, let's just try things out and see what sticks and what works, and then go ahead.
Yeah. So those embracing it, what competitive edge can it give a business then, would you say?
What competitive edge can it give people? I mean, so I work in the insurance industry. Let's talk about underwriters. Underwriters are super educated people making difficult decisions every day about where to place risk in an ever-changing, ever more dangerous, risky world. Pretty much every survey you'll read will say they spend 50% of their time doing manual tasks.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like asking, I don't know, Lionel Messi to keep goal. Like, what's the point in that? So where's the competitive edge? Get your best players out into the world to do the things that they should do, and that's the edge. I think I don't buy to this idea that AI and machine learning and technology is going to replace jobs. I think it will change jobs.
Yeah.
But I genuinely think it will change jobs for the better. And I can't understand why people are fearful of it, because if you're spending 50% of your time doing this manual task, well, get rid of that. Yeah. Go and do something else. Go and do the thing that you were meant to do.
Yeah.
And that's where I see the edge is. Just imagine the difference of people just doing the job that they were actually hired to do, as opposed to all the rubbish that you kind of pick up that isn't in the job description but forms part of that job.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's understanding what's possible though, isn't it? Because unless you really break it down to someone, make it relatable to them, they're going to be like, that can be automated? That can be automated?
Yeah.
It's not as obvious to some people, I suppose, is it?
It's not as obvious. No. And I think you have to accept that the job exists without that manual task that you've automated. Yeah. People think to themselves, well, what would I do with that 6 hours of time I've got? But you change your habits.
Yeah, of course.
Before I had kids, I used to find lots of things to do to fill my time up. Now I don't do any of those things because I've got a pregnant wife and a toddler and all those other things.
Yeah,
I've changed my habits, and the same will happen in work. Okay, if you're doing something today, you don't have to do it tomorrow, and you might be doing something that's much more rewarding, and I think you would be.
Yeah.
So don't be scared of this thing that you're this little fiefdom that you've got and think, well, that's actually my job and I've got to hold on to it, otherwise I'll be redundant. It's actually not that. That thing will disappear. Your time will evolve. The things you're doing will evolve. You'll have more opportunity to learn extra skills that will make you even better at your job, and you will be better off for it.
Absolutely.
100% I believe that.
Okay. Is there anything to be cautious of, do you think? Because you're very much in the wonder camp. If we were going to divide it into two camps.
Into the two camps. Is there anything to be cautious of? Yeah. If your mindset is not that of embracing change, you should be cautious.
Yes.
If you're not going to accept it. Do I think that AI is going to suddenly become cognizant and causes any trouble in the future? I don't personally. I think that'll be a choice. So I'm not worried about that. I think that you should be worried about ingrained habits that we have, that modern culture has led us to have. And if you're not adaptable enough to move beyond those, then yeah, you're going to have problems. I think you should be cautious of that. But I'd like to think that everyone has the capacity not to be that person, to let go of it. So, no. But of course, all technology changes jobs.
Yeah, of course.
That's what happens. Okay, so I suppose I'm just talking about what happens in life anyway. If you're not willing to embrace that thing and you're fearful of it, then that's something to be scared of. If you accept the world is constantly changing and you want to be part of that, then there's nothing to be scared of.
Yeah, I think it's quite an interesting point, because you are your habits, ultimately. So if you're not reaching your full potential because you're doing these me-now tasks every day, you're not solving complex problems because you're just focused on that. Ultimately, when you're stunting your growth. So that is an interesting angle as well, isn't it?
And you are stunting your growth. Yeah, in every way. There's 4-day weeks and things being trialled globally. Yeah. People want to be able to have more time to do the things that they want to do outside of work, but they still want to be paid the same amount of money, and they still want the same sort of, lifestyle that affords.
Yeah.
Companies want a certain degree of productivity. They expect a certain degree of productivity. Yeah. If you could achieve your job in 4 days, I'm not sure that lots of places would turn around and go, oh, no, we're now going to work you 5. Maybe some would, because they'll always want more. Like Elon Musk is definitely going to make you work more. But I think lots of companies would accept that they have a certain balance, and once they feel they can get it, you would have more chance to be yourself. So you are stunting your growth. Whereas imagine if you could all work 4 days a week, have 3 days off, and do things in that's just for yourself, and come back and do others. I think it's stunting in lots of ways.
Yeah, it is.
The balance at the moment is really high towards work, and it's because that's what it takes to get it done for companies to basically be productive. There's no reason that balance can't change.
No.
And again, that's something that I think will happen, is I think we'll get a better balance in our lives because we'll be able to achieve what we need to professionally, giving us more time personally to do other things that we want to do.
I think businesses are striving to be more output driven as well, rather than input driven.
100%.
Hours, it's whether you deliver the project, not what you put into that project, essentially.
Absolutely.
Because some people can just do it quicker.
Absolutely, exactly. And if one of my members of staff can do something in half the time of another, great, I'll give it to them. If they don't work for the day afterwards, that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right, exactly. It's output. And I think all companies want that. There's an understanding about the output they require to achieve the plan that they need to over the timeframes that they've got, whatever that would be. As long as they're on trend for that, I don't think they care if you took 3 days off.
No.
I don't think companies care about that. So I think technology should lead to a rebalancing, and all of that should be better for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. So how would you describe your management or leadership style?
Are my staff going to come in now and sort of go, it's lying. No. This is a lie. I don't personally believe you can make people do things. And I also don't believe you can really change people. I think people tend to be what they are. It has to be a choice from themselves to do it. So I believe in giving people opportunity, and I will constantly give them opportunity. And if they grab that, then I will engage with them more and more and more. If people show a reluctance to be involved in that, to push themselves, then I'm not going to push them, but I'm also not going to engage with them overly, if that makes sense. So I will slowly withdraw and go to the people who are more engaged. So I believe in people showing as much enthusiasm for something as I show.
Yes.
And my management style is to engage with those people and say, okay, you're the ones that I think I can make a difference with.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm less bothered by their existing skill base at the time, because that can grow. I'm more bothered by their habits. So my management style is trying to find the right habits that I think are conducive to success, and then really engaging in the right way to give that person the bandwidth to succeed without me telling what to. I cannot micromanage anyone, and nor do I want to. So I just want to find. I try and find behavior patterns, and then in those behavior patterns find the thing that gets that person ticking, and then get them into that as much as I can.
Amazing.
Which is kind of a weird answer, but that's what I'm trying to do.
So I know creativity is very important for you in terms of your team. What other skills are you looking for then, would you say? Or habits, I think you mentioned.
Yeah. So creativity is big.
Yeah.
And I should be clear, I think we talked about this before. It's not mathematical creativity, it's problem-solving creativity. And I think that's something that will change in the industry. We'll focus more on people having different ways of solving problems. What else do I like people to have that are important to me? Ownership.
Yeah.
Ownership is really important. And ownership is not just owning when something has gone well.
Yes.
It's the bad as well.
That was me.
Yeah, but that was me when it was bad.
Yeah, of course.
Put your hand up and say that was a mistake, and that's okay.
But that comes from management as well, doesn't it? And not leading by fear.
Yeah.
So also you going, right,
if you make a mistake, be comfortable in putting your hands up and say, I've made a mistake. Yeah. There was something wrong there. I think that's a really important trait.
Yeah, it is.
I also levity. Let's go with levity. I like people to be serious, but also not to be serious and to be able to laugh at themselves. You can be clever and someone can tease you.
Yeah.
You can build a nice culture by people, I think, recognising that they're more than just these automatons. So a bit of levity, a little bit of just self-awareness, I think is really important. I like my team to tease each other. Let's go with tease each other. I think there's something nice there in that. I think it's much more human. And so I look for people who can engage with others as people rather than just as workers that do things. That's important to me.
Yeah. So in terms of creativity from a problem solving perspective, how can you foster a culture of creativity then? Because it's not always obvious to do that necessarily until people are embedded in the workforce.
It's communication.
Yeah.
It's communication. Yeah. You're not looking for someone who's got every single skill. Like you're not looking for this mystical unicorn that just turns up and they can program and do maths and they're really, really funny and they're all these other things.
Yeah.
What you're looking to do is get a collection of people together, however many people it takes, that bring all of those skills together.
Yeah.
And so that's communication.
Yeah.
You create creativity by putting someone in a room who can talk to these others, and they might not be able to do the thing that they're saying, but someone in there can. And I think that's the key driver. Creativity is a process.
Yeah.
It's a process typically driven by more than one.
Yeah, of course.
One person isn't going to get you there.
Yeah.
And so, like in my team, we do these working groups. I'm a big fan of the working groups. I think it brings the best out of everyone. It also gives them an understanding about what others are doing, whereas I think if you make it kind of fragmented, they lose track of what's happening. But I think communication. It's communication. It's just recognizing the importance of everyone in the room towards the end product, irrespective of skill, because they're all bringing something.
Yeah.
And that's communication. It's just going through it.
Yeah. In terms of creativity, this is going to sound a bit random now, but I'm reading a book on movement at the moment. And one of them talked about Charles Darwin when he came back off an exploration and he moved house and he went back into the city and he was like, it's too busy for me. And basically he created, I think, a 3-mile path near his house that he just walked down every day. And that's where his best ideas came from. And those, like you said, you go to the gym, I do a lot of running. And that's when I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. I'm going to roll that out.
Oh, yeah.
So do you not encourage your guys to do some star jumps?
To build like a 3-mile path and go walking up and down.
No, but I do think there's a lot to be said for that. You know, rather than being static, moving, and then suddenly get that light bulb moment.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with this.
Yeah.
I mean, so I like listening to music when I'm working, again, because I find that kind of distraction makes me then think of things.
Okay.
Which I find, and I noticed lots of people have little habits that I think are the same as movement, or it's just, it's disengaging your brain, but your subconscious is still there and is working on it. And your subconscious is the thing that brings through the idea. And I think finding a method to kind of just turn off that conscious thought, that cognitive thought, and have something in the back ticking is really, really important. Do I encourage my team to do it? No, I don't. Maybe I should buy them all headphones for Christmas as opposed to bottles of wine and things. But I've learned something here. I think there's a huge thing to that. Subconscious thought is so powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. The treadmill in the office, that's what I'm going to get. Not an actual treadmill, just like the walking
Just
ones.
the walking treadmill.
Yeah, honestly.
I worry that you could get distracted and
Health
stack
and safety.
it. Yeah. Health and safety.
Could be an issue.
Maybe something else, like just a squeezy ball or something to help you.
Yeah.
But I think ways of disengaging your brain are super important.
That's interesting. Yeah. So your team don't listen to, because I think there is a stereotypical image of a techie in a room, headphones on, coding.
Lots of my team do.
Do they?
Yeah. A lot of them, in fact, have the same headphones that I've got, which I think means that they're copying me. I'm going to take it as they're copying me as opposed to the other way around. A lot of them do listen to music.
Yeah, okay.
But I always encourage them to, I like them to spend as much time as possible together talking, especially when they're in the office.
Yeah.
It tends to be a mix.
Yeah.
I think because of the hybrid working, a lot of them, when they're in the social environment of work, hopefully are spending it together to get that kind of social thing, and then at home they're doing their hard programming, they've got their headphones on and they're doing whatever. A lot of them go to the gym and other things. Anything that you do that means that your brain is ticking, but as I say, in that subconscious element, I think is good. But yeah, I'm going to start encouraging this. I'm going to think of something that I can give them. A subconscious moment.
Yeah.
Half an hour a day of subconscious thought. You're not allowed to think about work.
Yeah, honestly, when the guys were a bit stuck in the office and they're a bit tired and, I don't say go and get a coffee. I say go on a walk. Go on a walk, because it can re-energise you. But also you'll come back thinking, oh, that was a great idea.
Oh, yeah.
If you've got a difficult situation to approach or conversation to have, I'll always clear my head and come back and think, I've got this.
Fresh air.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of fresh air. Yeah. And I like the walking thing. I'm totally with you. Yeah. A nice walk, clear your head, think of something slightly different, get a coffee if you want. Yeah. Whatever it is you want to do, I think, it's very powerful. Again, the sitting in the office thing is not good for you.
No,
you're not going to do your best thoughts.
No.
Your best work, it's best thoughts, best work in the office. You have to mix your life up a bit to be able to progress.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I like the idea.
Okay, so moving on to the future.
Darwin had it though, is what we. So it was evolution and walking that he got down.
Absolutely, all in one day.
All in one day. Wow, that really puts my career in perspective. I need to step up my game a lot.
Honestly, though, I think it was 3 Mile. Anyway, it's a great book called It's Movement or something like that.
Okay.
But so the future of AI, and it's ever evolving, I suppose. Maybe 5 years ago, we didn't think this is going to be possible.
Yeah.
And now it is.
Yeah.
And things are accelerated, like you said.
Yeah.
But how do you encourage your team then to get there quickly if you also want them to build the right foundations?
That's a really difficult question. How do I encourage them? Okay. I'm going to go back to something I touched on earlier. Okay. I think there are lots of methods now to shortcut those foundations. There are lots of tools that will just sort of say, oh, with this magical nirvana, we'll put this thing in place for you. I think that those are generally a mistake.
Right.
Generally, not always, but I think they're generally a mistake. There's this big thing that's been made about citizen development, getting everyone to kind of be able to program. I'm not really sold on this idea.
Okay. Yeah.
I've never does any industry exist where you're saying everyone should be able to do everything?
No.
So why is that in the data world that you want these citizen development? So I'm not a fan of that. And I actually personally think that a lot of companies, including my own to some degree, distract themselves with these other things. And that's what creates inertia around putting the right foundations in. I actually don't think a lot of it's that complicated.
Right. Yeah.
Most data is unstructured. It's not that complicated now to build something that's going to take that unstructured data and make it structured and allow you to do something with it. But if you get distracted by this, but I want Joe Blogg's person over here to be able to interact with that as well and do this, and I don't really want to build this properly, so I'll get this company to do it for me, or I'll talk to them. There is your distraction, and that's what's going to slow down your progress.
You're right.
I think having a very clear vision about what it is you're trying to achieve will get you there.
Yeah.
If you think that you can do it on a low code, pre-built basis, etc., then all power to you. I'm totally for that as well. I'm sure that I'm wrong all the time, But then 100% go for that.
Yeah.
Don't mix that in with, and I'll have some high code programmers over here and I'll have a bit of this and a bit of that. I don't think your foundational block should be a smorgasbord. It should be a focused, conscious effort to build something, and then accept what that gives you at the end. So have an idea about what you're trying to achieve, and then I don't think the foundations are that complicated anymore.
Yeah, you are right. We can overcomplicate things, or shiny tool syndrome, where you think, you get distracted and think you should be investing in everything, and then you forget what you're actually trying to achieve.
What is the point? I remember once saying an old CEO of mine that he could create a report himself with some natural language. What a bloody waste of time.
Yeah.
Like, he's never going to do that.
No.
That's never, ever going to happen. He's got a whole suite of people outside his office who are doing that for him. So why did I waste his time and my time showing him that? And it was because it was this new thing that we built. And I was like, isn't this cool? Total waste of time.
Yeah.
Okay, people, you don't need everyone to be able to do everything. So ignore all of that. Stop overcomplicating and just go, this is the thing I need to be able to do. And these are the people I'm empowering.
Yeah.
And by empowering them, I'm empowering this other tranche of people. It's not one size for everyone.
No.
There's a cascading effect, and I think you should be very focused on what you're trying to do, and then all those other kind of ancillary lines will sort themselves out. You don't need to think about them.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to empower my whole company.
No.
Because there's 40,000 of them, and they're a global company, and they really don't want me to do that.
No.
I am trying to empower, 1,000 people in that company, and that 1,000 people I think could empower another 10,000 people. And do you know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Focused effort.
Okay. And on the flip side of that then, in terms of you trying to influence or get buy-in from the powers that be, do you feel they underestimate the time, resource, money needed to invest in a successful data science strategy?
I think there's always going to be a pressure between what a company wants to put down and what I would want them to give, or anyone like me was going to want them to give.
Yeah.
And that should exist and is a healthy thing to exist. There have to be checks and balances. Like, if you told me you'd give me triple my budget, I would of course take it. Is that an educated business decision? Well, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
But it's their job to create that thing. So I think that should exist, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think at the moment that industry has changed so dramatically in such a short period of time. My dad was an investment banker. I remember him coming home with like the first PC.
Yeah.
And being like, and then I remember like Prince of Persia coming out on this PC, and then you had like Nokia phones that everyone thought was great, and there was Snake, exactly. And then you've got an iPhone, and now you're in ChatGPT land.
Yeah.
And where are you going to be 10 years from now? And one of the outcomes of that is that there are people who have risen through their careers, that are in senior positions, who were there when that PC came out. It must be damned complicated to think, this PC can now do this.
Yeah.
That must be very, very complicated.
Yeah.
And I think individuals like myself potentially sometimes lose sight of the fact that I think it's obvious, but this person is coming from a slightly different place.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the natural checks and balances to progress. And I think it's a good thing, okay? I think it stops us getting too rapid in where we're trying to go to, because we're constantly pushing against this other person's knowledge base. And that's good. I think it's a good thing.
Of course.
I'm sure in 10 years' time, if I'm still lucky enough to be doing this job and I'm in one of those positions, there'll be someone underneath me going, why is John not giving me the thing that I want?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a natural thing. I think it's good. So it should exist. I think it's a good thing it exists.
Yeah. If someone really is getting a block from, say, the C-suite, and they've not that much investment in data science, so maybe they're a senior data scientist or a data science leader who are kind of just, not managing to influence those, what advice would you give them in terms of having those difficult conversations or making it relatable?
Yeah. I think the first piece of advice I give them, which maybe not great advice,
leave
is leave.
Yeah.
Is genuinely leave. Some you can't really change people's minds.
No,
not dramatically. You can move it by 1%, 2%, 3%. If they're diametrically opposed to what you're saying, you're not flipping them. That's not happening. Companies don't change their ethos that quickly, depending on the people who are in charge. Like it doesn't occur. So you should think about leaving.
Yeah. Point number one.
Think about leaving. You will waste your time there for a long period and probably just be frustrated and not achieve what you want to.
Yeah, I get that.
In terms of if they're not diametrically opposed, let's just say it's, I don't know, 10% different. I think we're very physical beasts, and I think that people being able to see things is super important. And sometimes we get caught up in this idea that it has to be this perfect thing they're going to see. So the thing that I would want to build, you can do something so much smaller, even potentially that's got a little bit of fakery in it or whatever, and that would just get that person to be able to see it and understand it and then make a decision. When you're just explaining something to someone and it's a thought in your head and you just verbally communicating this to them, that's quite hard to visualize. What does that mean?
Yeah.
I had a conversation with someone a little while ago who insisted to me that they have no unstructured data in their company, for example, which is a falsehood. Okay? Yes. Every document is unstructured. We basically live in an unstructured world. There's no way I'm going to be able to change that person's mind about that because they're just so set to it. But what I could potentially show them is, here's this document, you're reading that, let me just show you if I broke that out into, I don't know, 50 pieces and here's all the tokens. Could they kind of understand that? So do little POCs, days, weeks at most, and make people see it. And I think that's a good step forward. And always have a little bit of time in your calendar to create a physical, visual representation of what you're trying to explain to someone so they can go, oh, okay, I get it now. And I think that's the big difference. And then if they don't get it, leave.
Good advice. I like it. In terms of your organisation, do you have data quality analysts? Is that an area of investment?
Within my organisation, they do.
Yeah.
I think we get very caught up in data quality. I'm still not certain I completely understand what it means. You know, everyone thinks that their data is rubbish. Well, okay, but you're reporting on it every day. So it can't be that bad because you're using it today. I think there's this notion of perfection. It doesn't exist. It's never going to exist. It could always be better. I wonder if it's used as an excuse to not be able to do something as opposed to the fact that it's bad. So I know, so my company does invest in data quality analysts. I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical of them, of it.
Because I feel like there's a frustration with data scientists when they're spending time cleaning the data and making the data of a certain quality rather than doing where their skill set is best placed, I suppose.
Depends what you mean by that, okay? So if they're just getting rid of some blanks or creating some synthetic data and so on and so forth, that's part of the process. Get over it, guys. You know,
until you can automate it out.
It's just, it's don't complain at me about the fact that you've got to do some foundational blocks to get to this thing. As long as it's not 50% of your time. Okay. If we're talking about, you know, so let's take that to the other way. This data that they're using has probably been used for all sorts of financial decisions all over the place. It might be some claims data or whatever the heck it is. So it's been used before successfully. Companies have made decisions on it. So you can as well. So turning around to the business and saying it's not good enough, I think is a really negative thing for you to say. You can't constantly spend your time saying this has to be better because I can't do my job.
Someone else's problem rather than the ownership.
Because and also that company will very honestly turn around to you and say, but we did something with it previously.
That's a good point.
Don't make excuses for the fact that you're not dealing with perfection because you're not after perfection. The world isn't perfect. You're after something that you can work with and make a decision with. And that's the level of quality you're after. And I think, we need to be very cognizant of that. We need to turn back and think to ourselves, what are we actually trying to achieve here? Rather than getting lost in the minutiae of, I'm having to do a little bit of work here to make this tangible. That's not right.
So data is often associated with logic and things that are binary. Do you try and influence those in your team? Are they stuck on the maths behind it and everything being binary? Is that something that you have to kind of manage out of people?
Absolutely. I also think that mindset is slightly dangerous because in there does lie obsolescence of people. Okay, if something was as simple as a binary outcome, then you don't need a person at the end of it. So that shouldn't be your goal. It's not. This is not a true or false. This is a what shade of grey are we at? And so when I'm asking people to think about problem statements, where I want them to operate is in the grey.
Yes.
Okay, if it's black and white, then it probably shouldn't really be in my team anyway. You probably don't need us to tell you a binary decision. Sometimes you do, but a lot of the time I think you don't. What we're here to do is tell you, well, you might not have understood this big grey pile. We think it's more towards this side than the other, and this is why. But then someone should be looking at that and going, oh, well, no, actually, you've missed this other bit of context. It's actually over here. That's what we're trying to do. So I don't think binary is the goal. So when people get caught in that idea of, oh, I'm trying to give you a true or false outcome, that's the wrong place to be. I don't want you there. I want you somewhere else, slightly more intangible.
Yeah, and it can be very dangerous, can't it? And we live in that, in the wider world in terms of good, bad, right, wrong, left, right. It's like, why can't I just be in the middle?
And you should be in the middle.
Yeah.
Like, extremes never actually work out.
No,
that's the thing.
no.
And people are important in that decision. So, no, you're completely right. Like, it's not a true or false world.
No, it's not.
People aren't true or false. Decisions aren't true or false. Data isn't true or false. None of these things are true or false.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, yeah, we should be aware of what we're trying to achieve here, which is just understanding. Yeah. And understanding is evolving.
Yeah, and embracing imperfections.
Absolutely.
And are you confident then going to, if you need to present or report back, that things aren't perfect, but here's where we are, here's the update?
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
And the business are happy with that?
I think they're more happy with that than me turning up and saying, oh, by the way, you should have done this.
Yeah.
You asked me what should you do if you're dealing with a leader who's not quite with you, okay?
Yeah.
Turning up and telling them that they're wrong is never the right decision. No. Turning up and telling them they're just right is probably also not the right decision. So turning up and being like, well, we're on a journey, we kind of think this is the thing that's coming together, I think is a much better response. People want to feel involved in these things. If you remove their impact, they're not engaged.
Yeah.
You can't engage with a true or false.
No, you can't.
So I'm okay turning up talking to people about the fact that I don't quite know the answer, but I think it might be somewhere over here. That's
Good.
okay.
Yeah, and that's accountability again, isn't it?
Yeah.
So something I want to touch upon, given that I also spent time in Japan as well,
Yep.
is working for an international, Japanese company.
Yeah.
So was that new to you? Is there anything in terms of the business and how they approach certain situations that you were like, oh, okay, this is different?
Oh, absolutely everything.
Really, yeah.
Absolutely everything. I think that Japanese culture is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. I mean, everything about it blows my mind. It's so incredibly alien to every other kind of culture that I've come across, but in such a really fascinating, lovely way.
Yeah.
I think that we have a lot to learn from Japanese culture about the passing of time.
Yeah.
That not everything has to be immediate. That actually including voices and lots of things isn't a bad decision. You know, like it doesn't all have to just be made immediately, and talking about things and running through it can be a good thing. It's not always a good thing, but it is a good thing. But there is also, you know, a frustration there because things can take longer than you feel they should because of it. But I don't think it's a bad thing. But I think I like working for a Japanese company. I find it frustrating at times, as I'm sure they find me frustrating.
Yeah, that's true.
But that exists at every company for lots of different reasons.
Yeah.
One thing I think is really positive about working for a Japanese company is when they are invested in you, they are invested in you.
Oh, they're very loyal.
They're there. And it's not going to be 6 months from now suddenly there's a new bit of catnip down the side that they're interested in. I mean, there might be. There'll be something else that they're fascinated by. Yeah. But they won't lose their engagement with you. They're engaged with this idea, and they will stay engaged with this idea. That's really, really positive. It gives you such a solid foundational block to work from. It doesn't mean that you're constantly thinking, oh, what's going to happen from now to tomorrow and so on and so on. And so I really like that aspect. Yeah,
they're not fickle at all. I remember when I was there and Backstreet Boys were touring, I was like, are they still a group and still around? But in Japan, they're huge still because they're very loyal fans. Even
today?
Yeah, they're not fickle. They don't go with the trends. They're like, I love you and I love you, and that's it.
And they do. And once they love you forever. They're great fun to work for, actually. Good. They really are. Yeah. And I'd say something that they do, you'd have come across this, okay? Every time one of my Japanese colleagues comes to visit me, they will bring me a gift. And recently, they've been bringing gifts for my kids.
Oh, so hospitable.
Now, it's so hospitable, but I think, again, I said it earlier, like treating people like people is really important. And turning up at a meeting and giving me a little gift that shows me that you're actually paid attention to the fact that I've got a kid at home or whatever the thing would be, makes me feel like more of a person in that in their eyes, as opposed to they've just come over and let's just talk about data science or data engineering or whatever. They engage with the aspect that you are a person. They also do the thing where they every meeting they kind of introduce themselves, and you'll get like a family chart and like a picture and here's the concert I went on and here's X and here's Y, and it becomes so much more personal as opposed to this who are you, I'm the CIO, let's move on. They do that, I'm the CIO, yesterday I went to see Backstreet Boys because they're still big in Japan.
Stop, I didn't know they did this.
And that is really positive.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing. I think that's a wonderful part of culture.
That's amazing. Yeah. And then in terms of how they operate then, do they see the face-to-face element still very important, although it's different country? Do you go there and do they come to London quite regularly?
We do a lot of face-to-face engagements, which I think are really important. They're really engaged with the idea that you can never have too much communication. No, it's been really positive. And I like going there to visit. So
any excuse.
Yeah, any excuse, exactly.
So too much communication as in too many meetings?
No, sorry, I mean, they realise you can't have too much communication.
Right, okay.
As in, it's a good thing to constantly be talking. I am on the phone to them every morning for hours on end, and that's a really good thing. They never arrive at the conclusion, we know enough and we're done here. There's always more. And again, I like that engagement, that wanting to know what's going on. Yeah, okay, it can be a distraction because, I just got these 4 billion emails to do. But it reminds me that it's important to talk to these people, and as in my senior leaders in Japan, so that they understand where I am, so that they can communicate to others what it is that's going on. And that's a really positive thing. So
they're very detail-orientated.
Super detailed.
Amazing craftspeople, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the commitment and loyalty, rather than getting bored or something or moving on to a different trend. It's like, I don't know, it's crazy. Like their workmanship is just unbelievable.
They'll take something to the nth degree.
Yes.
And they don't stop. And I really like that refinement of a process.
Yeah.
But then, there's the other side of that, which is sometimes they don't quite know when to let the thing go.
Yeah.
It's like, this is done now, let's move on to the next thing. So there's a balance, isn't there?
Yeah, of course there is.
Being a Westerner working for a Japanese company, I like to think that we bring a good balance there, and I find it really positive.
Good.
So, yeah, I like it.
Good to hear. Okay, so we're going to move on to a data lightning quick fire round.
Okay.
Do you need a drink of water before we go on?
Are there questions that searching?
No.
Okay. No, I'll be fine. Thank you.
What's one common misconception about data that you'd like to debunk?
That it's scary.
Yeah.
It's not scary.
Yeah.
It's not scary at all. It's part of your everyday life.
You
just don't realise it. Even if you're not a data scientist or a data engineer, your brain, your body, everything about you is processing data in every single way. It's just organic. You shouldn't be fearful of it. It's just a part of life.
Yeah, so ubiquitous. Absolutely. Yeah. And that is a thing. Do you use data? For example, if you're, I don't know, I was listening to a doctor the other day and he was talking about you should think about the 10 main KPIs of your body, one of them being vitamin D, and rather than relying on a feeling, because those deficiencies will play out in later life rather than now. So do you have hobbies or live your life through data in that sense more than the average person would you say? Have all these charts.
That's an interesting question. Where's my vitamin D today? I think I am very aware of the way I feel about things because I recognise that that's really what information is about, is a feeling that you get from it. And so I pay a lot of attention to that, maybe more than others who can second guess themselves a lot. You always know how you feel, and then you spend a lot of time thinking, should you be feeling like that? Whereas I think I'm a bit more straightforward. If I think something about something or feel in a certain way, I will react to it. So if my body tells me that I'm a bit knackered today, and maybe I should have a little nap, then I'll go and do it. Whereas that's probably a terrible answer. But But I'm trying to think of an example where there's something where someone will be like, oh, I won't do this. Don't go to the gym if you're too tired. Go to bed early if you're tired. Respond to yourself. I like to think I respond to myself.
Do you know what, on the flip side of that, though, the obsession with those rings about when you sleep, is it the Oura ring?
The Oura rings.
Some people, though, then tell themselves that they're sleep deprived, so feel like, I can't possibly, they get obsessed.
Yeah.
I can't function today because I only had 4 hours sleep, and usually I have 5 hours sleep. So sometimes it can be a little bit like it's too much knowledge, do you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's the overthinking it piece, isn't it? Whereas I think you can wake up in the morning and you don't have to think, you don't have to look at your watch and go, oh my goodness, my Apple Watch is telling me I had 4 hours, I'm stuffed. You could just wake up and think, I feel okay, I'll go for a jog and that's the point. You know, feel your way through problems and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Don't overanalyze.
No.
And again, I think that's something that happens in all walks of life, and definitely in data science and data engineering, is people overanalyze the thing they're trying to get to because they're after this perfection. Decisions are not perfection, and so instead you should kind of just take a feeling of something without overanalyzing it and move forward. If I wake up in the morning and I'm not tired, I'm going to crack on. If I wake up in the morning and I'm knackered, I'm going to go back to sleep for a little while. I mean, respond. I don't have to overthink it, and I don't need my watch to tell me what to do. Yeah,
no, I like it. Name a book, event, or podcast that you think every data enthusiast should explore.
I'm really liking Decoder. It's by The Verge's guy, Nilay Patel, I think is his name. I think that's a really good podcast at the moment. I'd recommend that. He had an interview with the CTO, Kevin something of Microsoft. Sorry, not McDonald's.
You hungry?
Microsoft. I am hungry actually. Yeah. A little while ago, I thought that was really, really fascinating. I think that's a really good podcast. I enjoy that. In terms of books, read something that's not serious. I read Terry Pratchett. There we go. I think you can get too engaged with the idea of constant learning, but learning is about creating connections between things that aren't obviously connected. And so just constantly reading like a tech journal and so on and so forth isn't really, I don't think, going to get you somewhere. Whereas having a spectrum of knowledge across a wide base, that is going to get you somewhere. So I read silly books, and I like reading silly books, and they make me feel better. And they also get the creativity of some of them is just amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a thought process in that literature, which makes me better at my job, because it makes me think, okay, I don't just have to do it in this way.
It's abstract.
It's abstract.
Yeah.
It's really important. So I like that.
Absolutely, that's so key. I was on holiday reading Leaders Eat Last, another Simon Sinek book, and something else, and my mum went, just take a holiday. And she gave me a book. It was a comedian, I can't remember his name, and his autobiography, and I just laughed the whole holiday. And I thought, thank God I'm not thinking about all these wonderful business ideas and teamsing the team, telling them changes are on the way, you know.
And you'd come back and be more efficient because of it.
Absolutely.
Because you let go for a little while.
Yeah.
And you should do that. Like you're allowed to laugh and be daft. So maybe do serious podcasts, non-serious books, or whichever way you want to do it. But
I like that. It does work.
Your mum was right. Mums are always right. Mums are always right.
They are. No, I like that. If you could offer one piece of advice to someone just starting their journey into the world of data science, what would that be?
Time is precious. Time is precious. When you're at work and you have the opportunity to learn, and you have the opportunity to stretch yourself, and you have the opportunity to soak up knowledge around you, don't let that pass. And I think too many, that's the difference between being successful and not, is the ones that come in and are like, I'm going to grab everything about this and take everything with me today. They're the ones that go on to do really, really well. The ones that turn up and think, oh, I'll do this next week or next year or whatever, they don't, maybe that's where they want to get to, which is fine. Okay, the world is full of lots of different people doing lots of different things, and I embrace that. But in my opinion, you're going to miss out on your potential of what you could achieve, because it's all those little conversations that you have at the start of your career that get you to where you need to be.
I like that. Make every day count.
Make it count. Really make it count. There's lots of time to, like, I don't know, check your phone after work or whatever the heck it is that you want to do. But when you're in that place, surrounded by these people doing this skill, who are all of different kind of experience levels to you, some more senior, some more junior, there's nothing but learning there.
Yeah.
Nothing but learning across every single kind of skill spectrum that there is. And you're a fool if you don't grab that. In my opinion, you're a fool if you don't grab that.
Yeah, good point.
Stay at home, work for yourself if that's not what you want.
Yeah.
So grab it.
I like it. Finish this sentence. Data is the key to
the future.
Like it.
Future. Let's go with the future.
Yeah,
100%.
like it. In your opinion, what will be the most significant development in the world of data in the next 5 years?
I think a lot of industries will rebalance themselves over the next 5 years. And because of that, I expect the current massive fear about information to change and lessen quite significantly. And I think that will be a huge positive. I think it will lead to us embracing what is achievable much more rapidly than maybe we could. And I think that that's going to be the thing that changes. And I think that'll be really interesting. I think it will lead to lots of disruption and lots of changes that people might be scared of, but I think that I think people will start to embrace the power of information more. Yeah. I look at things like ChatGPT and so on and so forth, and Gen AI, and Gemini from now, Google, and all the rest of it. And I think that as more and more people engage with that, the less they will be. I think they'll still be scared, but the more they'll be like, wow, there's so many things I could do. And industry is going to force them to do it.
Yeah, it won't be the unknown.
It won't be the unknown. And I think that could be a really positive thing. So that's what I think will change.
You're ready for the journey.
Yeah.
Like it. Well, thank you.
4 quick fire questions. Look at that. Perfect.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You aced it.
Thank you.
It's ruthless manipulation and coercion, effectively to drain any funds they have from any bank account. So what we're trying to do is put a database together that allows all of our members visibility of who are the most vulnerable or susceptible individuals to that,